Hi, and welcome to the Italian Laws podcast, where we discover spirituality together. And today, Jean Louise Green is joining me. How are you today?
I am so happy to be here, Laura. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm really excited to be here and share about what I do and how
you
that's
do a lot.
helping to make a better world. So
Yes, exactly. That is our aim, isn't it? So
Thank
for
you.
those that think, who is Jean Louise Green? Well, she is a beautiful writer and she's a Rolf practitioner, and she's published a book about, it's called Structural Integration and Energy Medicine. And is how, well, she's going to tell all about it, what it is. But it is how we could get the energy flow much, much better throughout our body. Isn't that right, Jean Louise?
That's correct, Laura. That's the highest aim of it. Yes. And I actually do a form of body work called structural integration. And it's based off of the work of Dr. Ida P. Rolf, who was, she became more visible in the 1960s at Esalen, which is a retreat center in Northern California. And she taught there and practiced there and became very known, working with some very just very strong people during that time in the human energy field. And so, yeah, she was just amazing. And
I'd love to hear all about it.
I had
we start? Like, how did you start this journey?
How did
she was already in the 60s, and obviously we're now how much later? 50 years later, almost.
Yeah.
So how does it work? And
how did I get into this? That's a great question. Yeah. I was a young gymnast, and as a gymnast, I actually was not trained properly in a certain way, because if you notice gymnasts nowadays, I mean, they're incredible, and it's an incredible sport. And at the same time, often the young people have pretty big arches in the lower back. And that can happen with improper training, where people are not drawing their belly button back towards the spine. And there's core level muscles called the psoas muscles that will pull forward when the outer layer of the rectus abdominis pulls forward. So that creates a big arch in the lower back. And that can be really problematic for people. Yeah, so by the time I was done with my gymnastics, and I was a young adult, I had difficulty sitting, standing, kneeling. And I was fortunate to come across a Rolf practitioner who I experienced the 10 session series with. And that's like a recipe that Dr. Ida P. Rolf, she developed that work. She was a biochemist, and yet she studied yoga. She was really good at studying the human body and observing. And she had some very original ideas, and she also studied with other people that were really doing some great work at the time that was related to body, mind, and consciousness work. So Dr. Rolf developed a series of 10 sessions, and I experienced those sessions. And what I was so pleased about is that during a fifth session of the work, my pelvis became horizontal. And that's a big deal, because the pelvis is like the kingpin. It's the center of the body, and it affects what's above and below the body.
Right.
And it's a major energy center in the body as well.
Yes, it is. Yeah. With the root
So
chakra, right? So it's our foundation.
yes, in the sacral
Uh-huh.
chakra and the solar plexus. Yeah.
Mm.
So those that area of my body was not balanced, meaning when I stood, my pelvis had been moving forward, tilted forward,
Right.
and I didn't have a proper grounding connection with my feet into the floor or into the earth. There was a constant kind of battle with gravity, subconsciously trying to hold myself up.
Uh-huh.
So
Right.
I was not at home, so to speak. I was not being supported by the earth.
Yes, I
And
see.
it was subtle, and yet it was something that was ongoing. And the pelvis also affects emotions. It's a major emotional center of the body, as well as the fifth chakra, the throat chakra. So there's an old adage, as above, so below. So
Mm.
because my body was disorganized in the lower end, it also affected the upper end.
Right. Yeah, because I read
Yeah.
in your book and I really like this sentence. It says it's a conduit of life force energy. So basically, what you said, if your body is not straight, it's not properly structured, then your spiritual journey might be affected or will be affected.
Well
Energy
said, Laura.
can't, yeah, the energy can't flow properly.
Yeah. Bingo. That was great.
Bingo. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, we
That's
got it.
right. Ding, ding, ding. You got it, girl. So, yes. So there was a
Right.
disconnect, and
Yes.
the body is a conduit for life force energy, and
Mm,
it's the energy of the earth. Like there's a reservoir of these electrons, life force energy on the
mm.
surface of the earth. And when we stand barefooted on the earth, our bodies are able to move that energy through. And all alive beings are supported by the gravitational field of the earth
Mm,
and also of the heavens. There's an electromagnetic life force field above us of the sun,
mm.
and that moves through the body. It penetrates into the body, and we basically swim in these fields of larger energy. And our bodies are designed to move those energies through.
Yes.
And the work of structural integration, it amplifies that ability by allowing the structure to come back into a place where it's most optimal and easy for that energy to flow through the body.
Ah, right. So for in your case, your pelvis was not right
Correct.
and it got adjusted. And how adjusted by
Yes.
the fifth? And how is the adjustment work? How does that work?
Thank you.
What do we do?
Well, in structural integration, it's designed to work with layers of the body,
Mm,
layers of connective tissue, the fascia. And in the first 3 sessions, we open that outer wrap of the body, the superficial fascia. And that then allows the practitioner to start into the core level sessions of sessions 4 through 10.
right.
And in the 5th session, we're at the psoas muscle, and we're helping to bring balance between the psoas and the rectus abdominis. And in the 4th, we've already opened up the inside line of the legs and the pelvic floor.
Mm.
So we are like helping that line to move through the center of the body, that energetic energy to move up along the
Upward.
central vertical axis where the chakras are along the front of the spine. Yeah.
And is it with like massage or with like
Yes.
tucking and pulling and pushing and what else can
Yes.
you imagine? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Laura. Yes, it's a form of hands-on body work. So practitioners are using their fingers, perhaps their knuckles, their palms, their forearms, perhaps their elbows at times.
Oh,
Yes.
wow. It's like this Asian massage that you sometimes see when they put the elbow right into your back, type
It
of
is
way.
done with such precision, this body work. And I work very slowly in the connective tissue. And I
Ah,
know how to use my body tools to accomplish what it is that I want to change in the body to help assist that person.
wow.
So every body tool that I have, so to speak, is it's had a lot of training, and it's able to perceive the change in the tissues as I'm working. Yeah.
Yes,
There's
right.
there's one thing I want to say about this work, Laura. There's a a Rolfer who went to school with the Rolf Institute many years ago, and he's the author of anatomy trains, and his name is Tom Myers. And he actually described our work very well. He said there's three types of pain. He said there's pain of injury, there's pain that gets stuck in the body, and there's the pain of releasing the stuck pain.
Well, that makes sense. Yes.
So when I work with people, I really focus on areas of what I call strain, where stress has become internalized in the body. And I use my appropriate tool, my hands, and I work very slowly and gently, and I help bring the person's awareness to that area so that we're actually in tandem working with a similar intention. I may ask the person to bring breath gently into that area to expand that area. So the
Oh,
fibers start separating. So space is being created where there was compression of fibers.
yeah.
So where my work continues to evolve, and I've been doing this work for 30 plus years,
Wow.
and where I'm at right now is I I really um, I really honor the fact that each person is has incredible potential to be the full aspect of who they are and what they came here to do,
Yes.
because I feel that each one of us has purpose, and
Yes.
each one of us is very needed, you know.
Oh, yes, definitely. All the healers are. Hey, and then
Yeah.
you said you also bring the attention of the client and their breath to the and their
Yes.
awareness as well.
Yes.
So from their perspective, they're quite involved. It's not that
Yes.
they like
Yes.
chilling out, or it's not that they
Yes.
have to, so
That's
they're very
correct.
involved in being aware. Is it,
Yes.
do you also bring like Reiki into that as well for yourself? Do you?
I love that question.
I would love
Thank
that. It's
you.
a shame you live on the other
Yes.
side of the world, but otherwise I'll be there tomorrow. But
I Another part of my own growth since 2019 has been to come across what's called a subtle physical energy substance called akadua.
Mhm.
And the akadua comes through the Toltec tradition. And it's a subtle energy that was hidden for about 1,000 years. And it it was brought out by a shaman named Coyote the Blind. And Coyote is the teacher of my teachers, Dr. Arlen Cage and his wife, Bonnie Cage. So I knew that I was supposed to meet these people when I first heard about them. And I knew I wasn't going to go out of my way to do it. They lived in another part of California. And
Wow.
we ended up at the same healing arts fair. And I walked over and I saw Akadua and Dr. Cage. And I just, I knew I was in a place I was supposed to be at that moment. And I introduced myself to Dr. Cage. And within minutes, truly, I was receiving the first level of initiation of the Akadua.
Oh.
And right now, the highest level of initiation is what's called level 5.
Mhm.
And I'm a level 4. And with each level of initiation, there's an amplification of that chi energy, that subtle energy that moves through us. So for me, there's been greater connection with that internal guidance system within me. And I call on that each time I begin my work with people at the beginning of the session. And I think I'm a little bit unusual that way.
I love it.
And people are very open to it, and they realize that they have come to a special place for a level of healing that is has great potential.
Potential. Yes. Yeah, because I do believe that if you could pull that life force energy with the structural integration as a Rolf
Yes.
practitioner, it would activate things better as well in the body, right? And that's what we
Exactly.
want. Yeah, that's what
In
we
the
want in our
first,
spiritual growth. Mm.
yes. And so I got an opportunity to do a webinar through the International Association of Structural Integrators, which is the professional organization of structural integrators. And I had an opportunity to do a webinar, which I titled An Energy Medicine Approach to Structural Integration. And it was so overwhelmingly received with a positive response that I've been asked to do another webinar this year. And I'm super excited about it.
Wow.
So in the first webinar, I really shared with people how I partner up with that, with the level of presence through that subtle energy to be present with the person while we're working, so they can be totally present, so we can have the same intention as we're working. And I think that was super good for practitioners to hear, because we are body, mind, emotion, and spirit.
Yes.
And working with the body, there's not a separation of all of that. We're working with the entire being.
Beings. Yes, I see. So when you're in the last 5 sessions, because we've come through sort of how it works and like the pelvic floor, and you go a little bit deeper. How deep would you go in like the last 5 sessions? Are they also very hands-on, or is it
Yes.
other practices that we have to do?
Yes, thank you. So when I say working deeper, it doesn't mean pressing harder. It means working with different structures. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So in sessions 4, 5, 6, and 7, there's very specific areas of the body addressed in each session. And in my book, Structural Integration and Energy Medicine, I share that with people so they know what this process is about, where we're going, why we're going there, what they can expect, and how they can optimize the work themselves as we do this process together.
Yes.
So, for example, the goal of the first session is to open up the breathing capacity. That goal is to open up the lungs. And we start de-straining the upper girdle, the shoulder girdle, and we also get into the pelvis. In the second session, we actually go into the feet, the lower legs, the quads, the knees, and we start getting the basis of support of the feet underneath people. And a lot of times people stand with their feet turned out, or they may have one foot that's kind of turned in and the other foot turned out. That's a rotation pattern that's going on in their body. And that's one of, I feel, my specialties in my work, because through the 30 plus years of practice, I've been observing that there are, like, I look at body structure, I look at the person standing in front of me in the very first session.
Right.
And I have people stand in their underwear so that, and I let people know we're going to do
Yes.
this, you know,
Yes.
and I want them to be comfortable, you know, and I'm looking at their front view, a side view, their back view, their other side view. And I'm looking for what I call a primary rotation pattern, which means that each person's body is going to have a direction that it prefers to twist in, whether it's right to left or left to right. And depending on what's going on with that rotation pattern, it's going to create a rotation pattern in each side of the body. Because we have 2 cylinders of the legs, 2 cylinders of the pelvis. There's going to be like a corkscrew spin.
Yes.
And one side of the body will be internally rotating. The other side of the body will be externally rotating. So each side of the body needs to be addressed in a specific way. And I've been seeing how strain in other areas of the body that are related will be almost predictable. Like, I know if this is doing that, then this other area is going to be doing that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, it's like building blocks.
Exactly, exactly. For example, a twist in the ankle can affect the knee. That can affect the pelvis. And because the spine is connected with the pelvis, that twist from a sprain in the ankle has the potential for affecting all the way up to the cervicals, to the top of the neck and the head.
Yes.
It's crazy. It's crazy how that happens.
It goes like that. I had, for myself, actually, I had an accident a while ago, and I couldn't walk for a long time, for a few months. I couldn't work. And then, because I had a vertebrae that was all the way on my lower back. I think it was my L3, I believe, or L2 was moved, but also the osteopath that helped me, and he did also acupuncture. He really helped me. He said your pelvis is moved because of your fall. It's moved like a corkscrew, but also sort of half upside down.
Yes, yes.
And it took a while, and he said this is going to take a year, and it did take a year for it to adjust. And all of a sudden, it popped back after a year of a lot of acupuncture and osteopath. And
I got you.
but it's awful, like, because it does affect the whole body, like I got migraines and you name it, I had it.
Sorry.
In that time. Yes.
Yeah, Laura, that's the type of work that I do with people, is to release that. And the process that I take people through takes about 2.5 months.
Wow. Yeah. So this. Yeah. But actually, that's good. Yeah, I think.
So we work like each week, and the body gets ready for the next session, the next layer of strain surfaces. This recipe that Dr. Rolf developed is just brilliant.
Wow.
And I was able to write all of that kind of stuff in my book. Yes. So the book is meant to be a guide for people during their structural integration series. And it's also, even people who aren't going through structural integration, it will help people understand why they're feeling what they're feeling in their body.
Yes.
Because we all are exposed to injuries. We all are exposed well, maybe not all, but I say most people also have emotional trauma at
Yes.
times in their lives. All of this affects the physical body.
Yeah.
And that stuff gets embedded as stress and strain into the body. And structural integration is the most thorough approach to balancing and integrating really the body, mind, emotion, and spirit that I have come across. And the results of it are quite remarkable. And I'm really grateful to do that work and to be of service and to help people become optimal.
More optimal. Yes, because I've been reading
Optimal.
your book as well. You kindly sent it to
Yeah.
me from the other side of the world. And I
Yes.
start reading it. Then since I start reading it a few weeks ago, I do notice I'm more aware for some
Yes.
reason. It's like, oh, I remember reading. I have to, do a bit more
Yes,
sitting more upright.
exactly.
And
I had a
also,
chiropractor that went through my work with me, and she said, Jean Louise, your book is filled with gold nuggets.
yeah,
She said, she said every chiropractor should read your book, because by her experiencing the work and going through the work with me, it really changed how she adjusted people, because she started learning more about adjusting even more specific for the rotation pattern that's going on.
exactly.
And so that was huge. And then, Laura, I wanted to say something else that's up front in my mind. And that is that I don't know if this is happening in Europe. And what I can tell you is that in the United States, there are so many people that are getting knee and hip replacements.
Yes.
And what I have found in the body is that the degeneration of the connective tissue around a joint precedes the degeneration of that joint.
Oh, really?
Yes. So this was shared to me in 2012 by a chiropractor who was also a structural integrator. And he said that he had been observing X-rays over a period of years. And he saw that the degeneration of the connective tissue would precede the degeneration of the joint, meaning it was very much connected with the degeneration of the joint. So what's super important about the physical body is that the connective tissue that wraps everything, we're looking at connective tissue as we're looking at skin, muscle, tendon, bone, cartilage. It's all connective tissue, even fat. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it all has purpose and connection. And when that stuff is working properly, it's delivering nutrients into the structures that it's related to, that it surrounds. It's removing waste. And it also has a resiliency. It has a liquid component. It's made of proteins called collagen, and it's made of a liquid aspect called ground substance that has a lot of minerals in it. But that's the fluid aspect that allows this transmission of nutrients and the exiting of waste to occur into the lymph, into the blood. So that's super important.
That is.
And when connective tissue shortens, which it will do, think about a twisted washcloth, You take a towel and you twist it, everything compresses. In connective tissue, the fibers are supposed to slide and glide everywhere in the body. When we breathe, if I put my attention anywhere in my breath, in my body, I should be able to feel my breath fill that area up and an expansion there. Okay.
Yes.
And that can happen. Well, when those connective tissues start to twist, they start adhering to each other. They lose their pliability. They lose their hydration, and it dries them up. And then we lose our range of motion, all of that happens.
Right.
So you can see how it affects many systems of the body when the fascia is not balanced. Dr. Rolf said that every system, major system of the body, the circulatory, the nervous system, all of these systems are embedded and surrounded by fascia, the connective tissue. And this work will help optimize the systems of the body.
Yes. Yeah. And also, because I was reading in your book, it's also quite a bit about self-care.
Yes.
Breathing. You're talking
Yes.
about support tools,
Yes.
such as infrared saunas, yoga, be aware, work with your chakras.
Yeah.
How do they sort of connect with the actual physical body?
Thank you so much. Yes. So by the time we're done with a structural integration series, it's kind of like cleaning the slate of the body. So the body wisdom within us is able to communicate with our brains more easily. For example, if someone goes back to working out and all of a sudden they're getting a feeling of, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing that, or maybe this is too much right now. So there's more communication with the physical body. And then there's also an openness for the person to be able to listen to that inner guidance, that still small voice. That still small voice becomes louder. Yeah.
Yes.
And then we're also able to move that life force energy in a very direct way through the body. For example, in each session, after we're done with the session, I have people stand and we actually do a breathing, a connected breathing with the intention of moving that earth energy up through the central cylinder of the legs, up along the front of the spine, up through the top of the head, out into their energy field, which is in the shape of a torus. So the torus is like, it's like a donut that's open at the top of the body, and energy from the electromagnetic fields of the earth and the solar light, the sunlight, it's moving into us. Yes. And it has that subtle energy connection with these larger fields, which for me, I realized it contains information and energy.
Yeah, because the picture in your book is, it looks like the electromagnetic fields of the earth when you see it goes from the North Pole and then with a big bow all the way to the South Pole.
Yes, exactly.
And that's how the picture looks like. So for people to sort of think, and how does that look like a donut that way.
Thank you so much. And so energy is moving in, energy is moving out, and it's circulating through us.
Yes.
So work like this allows us to tap into that even more consciously, which is really cool.
Yes.
So by the time a person is done with their 10 sessions, I realized that I wanted to write a section of the book that would be supportive for a person after their 10 session series. So included in that is a section on electromagnetic healing devices, which include the beamer, which stands for bioelectromagnetic energy regulation. So for example, when I meditate, I can really feel the energy flows moving through my body. The beamer is designed to do that using DC current through the body with copper coils. So you lie on a mat and you can actually set the setting to be either stronger or not as strong. So I love the beamer, and I utilize that for myself and with my clients at times. So the beamer and the far infrared sauna, they've really served me.
Yeah.
And then also I at the end of a 10th session, I show clients the 5 Tibetan rites. And I love the 5 Tibetan rites.
Yes.
So the 5 Tibetan rites are even supported by the Dalai Lama. He loves the 5 Tibetan rites. And I learned about these years ago from a very young woman in her 90s who proceeded to do handstands, headstands, cartwheels, the splits in each direction.
What?
And then she whipped out these exercises. My jaw was dropped, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So she handed off her file to me, and I started doing these, and I didn't realize that there were books written about these things. Yeah. So these rites really help me. They help strengthen my core. They help connect into my energetic line. They stabilize my joints, and I use them before I go into meditation. So first thing in the morning, I'm usually doing my 21 of each 5 Tibetan rites, and I love those things.
Yes.
And then I go into meditation. So for me, both of those things really feed me and help my connection with my physical body and with my spiritual self as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it all has to do with each other. I love how this all sort of integrates
Yes.
with each other. And I think also because I've never had a Rolf practitioner experience, like
Sure.
physically, I mean,
Yeah.
but I do know since the accident what a sort of a broken body does to your
Yes.
spirituality,
Oh yeah.
to your whole mood. Like you're so stuck.
Exactly.
I was so stuck. I didn't do yoga, and I
Yeah.
stopped all my exercise. And then
And
once I got going again, then my spirituality came back, and everything is
yeah.
like. And now I understand better.
Yes.
Especially since I've been reading your book, because it goes quite deep, but in a nice. It's easy to read. I find it,
Yeah.
and I'm not someone who can read a lot of books very quickly. You know, some people read
Yes.
Harry Potter books in 5 hours. For me, it's too
Right.
many letters.
Yeah.
So
I gotcha.
too many letters. But this book I can read quite easily, which says a lot of
Yes.
people. So if I can read it,
Thank you.
everybody can read it.
Yeah.
But
This book
yeah.
was really inspired. It was a 7-year process of writing this book. And
Wow, 7 years.
7 years, girl, 7 years. And I want to thank Dr. James Oshman for taking me under wing. He's a biophysicist, and he experienced structural integration back in the late 70s and got to meet Dr. Rolf. And she asked him to develop a scientific explanation of her work. And he took that on, and it totally shifted the direction of his own work at the time. And he became a leader in the field of energy medicine. And I got to watch him speak twice during 2006. And I heard him talking about the proteins of the connective tissue and how they were able to actually conduct the life force through them. And when I heard him say that, it was like, oh my gosh, ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
All these bells were going off. I was so blessed to hear, because he was speaking about science that is yet to, it's kind of like he was in the forefront of this stuff. Okay.
Yes.
So he was bringing out information that had already come out through Albert Saint-Georges. He already knew that hydrated proteins of the body conduct subatomic particles and waves. Okay. And that was documented, and it was accepted by his colleagues eventually. And
Yes.
Dr. Oshman took up on that. It's difficult. Science is now moving into the quantum, and that's part of the world of our body, of our human body.
Yes.
So for Dr. Oshman to move into that, it really blessed me because I've experienced waves of energy in my body since I was a little kid. And I wondered what these were. And I'd ask people about it and they just kind of shake their head. Well, as I heard him, I realized this is the movement of the life force energy along the spine through my body. And it's feeding every single cell of my body on that quantum level. It's bringing information into my DNA. It's up regulating genes and helping things happen that need to happen. So I was inspired by Dr. Oshman to start writing, and I started writing.
Wow.
And eventually I got to the point where I needed to ask him if he would allow me to utilize his material in my book. So he checked out my website and the articles I had already written, and he came back with a really overwhelmingly positive, just wanting to support me. So he asked for my manuscript and I sent it to him, and he proved the entire science in it. He went through the whole thing.
Wow.
And by the time I needed someone to do a forward, I asked him if he would consider doing that. And he said, Jean Louise, I've already started it.
Really? Wow.
Oh yeah. So the forward in that book is super important because you'll understand his connection back to Dr. Rolf. And by the time I spoke with him after he received my manuscript, there was a span of time. And when I got on the phone with him, I asked him, Dr. Oshman, has this manuscript even been worth your time and effort? You know, and he said, Jean Louise, he said, you are a very good writer. And he said, I have been waiting for a book like this on structural integration for a long time. And he said, you have put into words some very complex concepts, and you've done it in a way that's better than anything I've seen.
Yes, well, I can see it. It's amazing. Well, it's like I said, it's easy to read. Like I understand what you're talking about, and it's not my field of expertise at all. But when I was reading, I thought, oh, I actually understand what she means, and it makes sense. Yeah. So I think you've written in a very easy way.
Yes. And I did this, Laura, because when I'm actually working with people, I like to be more quiet so that I'm getting information moving through my toroidal field from higher sources. And I'm also picking up information from the person and their body. I'm listening with my hands and all of my being to what's happening on the treatment table. So when I go into that space with people and I invite people into that level of space with me, so we're working as a team, there's so much that I wanted people to know about the work. And if I'm talking, it kind of takes me away from what I'm doing in the body to a certain degree. I don't have that level of depth and connection. So I wrote that book so that people would get this information. And I just had a client finish the work with me, and she put into words amazing words about, she actually said that reading this book is critical to this process, because she said, Jean Louise, you don't have the time or the energy to share all of this stuff with people while you're working. And as I share that level of information, it requires energy for me to be present to share on that level. Okay. So I knew, as a practitioner, I knew the depth of this work, and I wanted to be able to present it in a way where people could have access to it, and it would help them get on the same page while we're working. And it would also support them during their sessions, so that when things get a little bit more difficult and they're wondering, what the heck's going on now? You know, they can open the book up and see, oh, you're at your 8th session. Okay, during this time, because we've already done the core level work, it's a time when there may be deeper levels of strain surfacing. And and I call that the causative level strain.
Okay.
And during the 8th and 9th sessions, I have an opportunity to help clear that in the pelvic girdle and in the shoulder girdle. So these are gems of information, and people go back into my book while we're working, and they're able to understand what's going on.
Yes. Yeah, because you were also talking about potential emotional releases.
Yes.
That you may not expect.
Yes.
So then in a particular session, and you feel great, and then all of a sudden you could get really emotional, and traumas would come up as well, right?
Yes,
I understood.
exactly.
So that's sort of the blocked energy that needs to come out in order for the positive energy to flow better.
Exactly. And I think it's really important because many people come to me who have had emotional trauma, physical trauma, abuse, and that stuff gets embedded in their tissues. And I think it's really important during an intake form to have some part of that form ask the question, have you had a level of trauma physically, emotionally, that would be important to let your practitioner know about? Because sometimes those bodies, if I as a practitioner understand where these people are coming from, it really helps me be able to see those cues as they come up in their body and address them on that level of emotional support for them. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah, definitely. Yeah, because you need to be able to handle that as well as a practitioner.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
you have to be there for your clients as well. Wow.
And I can also let people know that, for example, if someone has had sexual abuse going on in their past, oftentimes that gets stuck in the legs.
Oh, really?
Yes,
wow.
very much so. So I may be coming across a lot of strain, and I may be wondering, now where did this come from?
Yeah.
And if people share about that before we begin, it just helps me be on the same page with them.
Yes, I see.
To really support them.
Yeah. So from what I understand, what you're saying is that certain types of traumas will be getting stuck in certain parts of the body.
I have seen that. Yes, very much so.
That's very interesting, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, very much so. Yeah. And it's kind of funny because sometimes rotation patterns will change too. Like there may be a secondary rotation laid on top of the primary. And this is going to be what my next webinar will be about. I really want to do a webinar about how to release rotation patterns in the body. And I'm working at that now, on not only on the level of the girdles, but also on the level of the actual tissues. Like if there's a rotation going right to left, then I actually want to move that connective tissue from left to right, in order to neutralize the twist in the body.
Wow.
So yeah, funny things happen, and I just follow the release of the body and help support that.
And help support. Wow. Thank you so much. I think it's super interesting, this. It's to me it makes a lot of sense as well. And I think, so where do I start? Because you're in a different part of the world.
Right.
So how do we find a Rolf practitioner? What do we have to look out for?
That's a great question. All right. The International Association of Structural Integrators, it's the acronym is IASI. They have a website. And if you would Google International Association of Structural Integrators, they have lists of structural integration schools around the world.
Okay.
And by contacting the schools, you will be able to find practitioners in your area.
Yeah. Okay, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think with any of this, like osteopath, acupuncture, you need to have someone who knows what they're doing
Yes.
properly. So it's very
Yes.
important, right? So that we
Yes.
can find it worldwide, that is
Yeah.
great as well.
And it's best to find a practitioner who has been certified through an authorized school
Yes.
with EASI. EASI does the authorizing of these structural integrator schools and structural integration schools, and each school is going to be a little bit different, and there will be similarities, and EASI will give them the credentials after they've presented their curriculum and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay, that's
So
good.
you want to go with someone who's actually been certified through an EASI certified school.
Yeah, thank you. That's very important to know.
Yeah.
Are there any other tips that you can sort of share with us apart from the physical work? What can we do ourselves to already start being a bit more straight?
Yes, yes. Well, I think hydration of the connective tissue is really important.
Mhm.
And hydration of the connective tissue is supported by the consumption of minerals. So we want to eat food that's organic as much as possible. Like I have a section in my book where I talk about nutrition, the quality of the water. I talk about oil and salt. It's important to eat really like natural salt that not white salt that pours easily. We want to eat like the pink Himalayan or the gray Celtic salts. There are natural salts that haven't been messed with, and they're filled with minerals. And those minerals help the hydration of the connective tissue. And it also helps to balance the pH of the body so it's not so acidic. When the pH of the body is too acidic, that's when people start having arthritis and these type of conditions where people are getting acid reflux and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So the type of food that we eat, the water that we drink is really important. And I really feel that using magnesium supplementation is really important.
Oh, I do that every night. I take one magnesium.
Yeah, it's so important. And sometimes people will come in and their bodies will feel really like the connective tissue will feel like football leather. It'll be super tight, super hard. And it's like, oh my gosh, it takes a lot of energy to start working with that. And I tell people, you need to get hydrated and take minerals. I tell them, start eating really good quality salt, start using magnesium supplementation, and people will come back maybe a couple weeks later. And if they've really been doing those things, there is a very big difference in their connective tissue. It's much softer, it's much more pliable. So that's huge. And I do mention that in my books. I've got a section in there on minerals, and I talk about magnesium. I think and I think diet's just super important.
Definitely. Yeah. I think magnesium for me is very important. I noticed if I don't take it, sometimes I finish it and then I need to wait a few days before it arrives again because I order it. But if I don't take it, I sleep. My sleep is a lot more restless.
Exactly. And there are many types of magnesium that support different parts of our body. There's some types of magnesium that are better for the heart, and some that are better for the muscles. You might want to Google something like that,
Yes, I'll have a look. Yeah. I really like the one I've got, like like a very organic, natural one without fillings. There's not some fancy filling or actually cheap
Mhm.
fillings in there. So that's good.
Yeah.
Wow.
I also think that yoga and stretching are super good.
Mhm.
I think it's important for us to have some sort of meditation path
Mhm.
and be connecting internally with our guides and that wisdom that moves through us. Be around good people.
Oh yes.
All of that. Have
Positivity. Yeah.
fun.
That's for
Super
sure.
important, right?
Yeah, definitely. Share the love as well.
You got it. You got it.
Wow, Jean Louise, this is amazing. I think I would definitely recommend for everyone to get the book. I believe we can get it worldwide in English.
Oh yes, it's on
Yes,
Amazon. Yeah,
yeah. So if it's an Amazon,
yeah,
everybody will be able
yeah.
to
It's on
purchase it.
Amazon. It's great. Can I read just this last paragraph?
Oh yes,
This
please.
gal wrote up some comments about my book. She said, I highly recommend Jean Louise Green to anyone interested in feeling their best physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Working with her has had such a positive impact on my life. My body feels in sync and stable, and it feels like it is no longer in a constant fight with gravity. I also recommend her book to everyone, but especially to anyone who decides to go through the 10 session series with her. The physical and psychological benefits of the recipe of the 10 sessions are profound. The information contained in her book is healthful, well written, and an asset to not only the bodywork community, but those who seek bodywork treatment.
Wow, that's exactly what I wanted to say. Perfect.
Me too.
It's great.
Great.
Oh wow, Gina, you're such a delight. You're amazing. I wish you would live around the
Thank you.
corner.
Oh yes, and Laura, you're a joy,
Oh,
and
thank you.
I just felt so comfortable in your presence here, and
Oh, thank you.
you really brought out some great stuff from me.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's
So
me
I
reading about
thank
stuff
you.
and then want to learn a bit more. Yeah, I think it's, I do believe when your body is better and more straight, more connected to the earth, but also the heavens, that your
Yes.
spirituality is getting stronger.
Oh
I've
yes.
noticed it by myself. Also, when I've had a few months that I haven't been working out as much, and I was going more tired, and I missed appointments, and I missed that, and I'm not that type of person at all. I'm
Yeah.
usually very punctual, so
Sure.
I think it's all to do with everything. Is the body, mind,
Yes.
and spirit.
Yes.
It's deeply
Yes.
connected.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So much so. Yeah.
Oh, thank you
You
so
are
much.
beautiful. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you so much, Jean Louise, for your time and explanation. Put all your descriptions on your website and a link to your book. I put it in the descriptions for everyone if they want
Excellent.
to access it very quickly. And yeah, thank you for all the listeners as well. Please check out Jean Louise if you're in the US. Well, depending on where in the US, but you can more easily connect with her than I can. And follow the show, share the show, and also share the love for all the episodes. There's many of them at the moment. I love chatting
Thank
to
you for
people.
helping to bring out this good information that
Oh,
people
you're
can
welcome.
share.
Yeah, you've got
Thank
a lot
you.
to say, good things to say. That's good. Well, thank you so much. And I wish everyone a beautiful day, wherever they are, and a weekend as well. Thank you.
You got it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.